a code red for humanity. Curb emissions and dramatically reduce consumption or face a world that is fundamentally different.
When Kermit the Frog sang, "It's not easy being green," I want you to know that he was wrong. He was wrong.
There is no planet B. There is no planet blah. Blah, 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 blah.
It is unequivocal that human activities are responsible for climate change.
If unprecedented changes are not made and made soon, there will be irreversible damage to the planet.
Zero carbon.
East off.
Hello and welcome to Zero Carbonista Series 3, The Sky's the Limit. I'm Ian Collins and this is the UK's #1 environment-based podcast. If it's green, it's in. And whilst we've had our eye on events in Westminster, there is no leadership contest going on around here. There's no vacancy. That's because only one man has that daunting task of imparting some environmental wisdom to the nation without the bullshit. The green entrepreneur and environmentalist Dale Vince. Dale, morning.
Yeah, morning, Ian. Love the intro.
How's it going? Isn't it interesting over there at the moment? I mean, even as this episode comes out, there'll be more names that have fallen by the wayside to potentially leave just a couple.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a show they put on, really, isn't it? To choose from a completely unchoosable bunch, and look, the ultimate choosing is done by 200,000 mostly white, mostly old men based in the south of England. These people are going to choose our next prime minister, and it's like, I mean, I think that's awful. I mean, what kind of democracy do we live in? And it's like, what, the third or fourth time in 6 years that the Tories have chosen our prime minister.
I think they're trying to have one a year now. That's how I'm sensing this. It's going to be an annual event because we've had so many of the darn things. Is there anybody on that list, though, that you look at and think, well, just maybe that might be the person that we could at least get some traction going with?
No. And, I think part of the problem is they are pitching to this audience of 200,000, mostly white, mostly old men in the South. And so they're all veering to the right, aren't they? They're all talking about culture wars, ditching green stuff. I mean, this is what's wrong with having that tiny constituency choose our next prime minister. That hopefully they're playing to the crowd, and whichever one of them does make it to number 10 will actually then become a more balanced human being.
Yeah, and we've got Rishi Sunak, of course, and I think he's probably firmly on the right. And he's kind of, somebody described him just a brown version of Boris Johnson, which is probably true in many respects, because I don't think policy-wise, he might not tell as many lies, but, who does for that matter? But then on the other side, the kind of female version, Penny Mordaunt seems to be getting traction as quite a kind of slightly more open-minded, liberal, socially liberal character.
Penny Mordaunt, did you say?
Penny Mordaunt. Has to be pronounced Mordaunt. When she goes to France, they will love her because they'll assume she's a bit French.
Yeah, no, I mean, Rishi Sunak, right? He's also a slicker version of Boris Johnson, isn't he? I mean, slick is what he is, to the point of cheese. Ready for Rishi. What's that for a slogan? No, we're not ready for you, Rishi.
Ready for Rishi. It sounds like some kind of food parlour in Soho, doesn't it? Anyone for Rishi?
I'm not for any of them. We should have an election. That's what we should have. We shouldn't let this happen.
Right. I'll tell you what they should be talking about. The fact that we've got temperatures that are about this weekend, probably about to go through potentially the record, but very near to it as well. Because it's kind of weird, isn't it? Loads of rain, was it a week or two ago? Like massive amounts of rain. And then suddenly, bing, the sun comes out. Weird, that.
Yeah, and we're getting an awful lot of hot air from Europe, which is unusual. Usually the direction of travel is the other way.
That's not a joke at Brussels' expense, was it? You mean literally a lot of hot air?
Absolutely. And that's what's driving our temperature up. I think the record's 38.5 degrees in Cambridge,
like that.
2019. We're going to come close. Monday and Tuesday, I think, are going to be the peak hot days. And the Met Office have put out a death warning. That's pretty extreme, right? In Europe, they're expecting temperatures to be way over 40 degrees at the same time, which is, is approaching crazy, isn't it? I mean, what more evidence do we need that
some do counter it, though, because I talked about this on the radio yesterday, and I was having a right old sesh discussing this, and a bloke rang and he went, "Mate, it's summer. It's meant to be hot."
Yeah, that's right. And if you don't look at data, if you're not in touch with history, then that's what you're going to say, isn't it? Oh, look, it's hot, it's summer. But, the data tells us a different story. right?
Yeah.
We're breaking records continually in the last decade, one record after another, for hotness, for wetness, for dryness, for fires, everything.
And of course, if you look around the world, I mean, there's a pattern here, right? I mean, from Australia, and, you know, they didn't know climate change if it bit them on the arse, but they might be coming around to it. But it's literally everywhere, right? I mean, you know, when you've got Northern Europe, the floods in Germany, you know, now the huge heat that's going on in France and over here as well.
Yeah, wildfires in Alaska. I mean, that sounds improbable, doesn't it?
I mean, Alaska and fire are two words you don't put together, really. Right. You'd assume they don't even have matches over there. But there it is. Well, obviously, we are the program that keeps our eye on this stuff. But I've not heard a single one of the candidates mention anything about it.
No, I don't think they dare because of the audience, their electorate. I think they just don't dare.
Get rid of net zero. That's the big mantra. Will the Tories ditch net zero, Dale?
It's a good question. I would say doesn't even matter because they're doing sweet FA about it anyway.
So that's one way to look at it, isn't it? Yeah. Again, we talked about this last week. What is fascinating is when we do phone-ins on this and the aforementioned old white men in the South call in, they think that the Tories are absolutely evangelical about green stuff. They think Boris Johnson is no different to Greta Thunberg.
I know, it's amazing, right? What world do they live in?
Yeah, they say, until they get rid of that net zero, until they get rid of that old shit, I'm not voting for any of them. They really absolutely have the very opposite view to you.
I mean, not that people have different views to me, but how extreme.
That's strange, yes. How weird is that? How dare.
But just how extreme and unconnected it is, because, you know, if they looked at the record of the government in terms of doing rather than talking, then they'd relax a little and say, no, it's okay. You know, there's nothing happening here. Or if they looked at reports that show how much money green energy has already saved us as a country and as consumers or householders, then they might relax again and say, do you know what, there's merit in this green energy because it's saving us money.
It's interesting that it's not just the Conservative Party, because you would have seen that story that there was a climate emergency briefing and something like 68 MPs went to it.
Yeah, I know, which is shocking, right?
You said, well, there's 500 and odd of them. Where the hell were they?
In the bar?
Probably.
Yeah, I think it's shocking, actually, that level of interest. Or maybe they were also boned up on the climate crisis. They didn't need to go. Maybe they felt, they were beyond that.
But you had Sir Patrick Vallance, the UK's chief scientific advisor in Parliament, guy that knows his beans and stuff. And you'd think it might be an opportunity to hear what somebody like that had to say aside from anything else. But, I'd go further on this. I would say it's your kind of duty to attend this kind of thing.
Yeah. Didn't it come about through the action of a protester? Didn't somebody hold a protest to get exactly this outcome?
Yeah, that's right. Angus Rose staged a 37-day hunger strike outside Parliament.
Incredible.
And only 70 MPs showed up for it. So even somebody tried to starve themselves to death to hammer the point home wasn't enough to get people out the bar to a meeting with the government's chief. So, I mean, it wasn't exactly being held by Swampy, where you might go, we'll give that a swerve. This was Sir Patrick Vallance, the main man, as it were.
Well, I think I'd swerve towards the Swampy gig, actually, and see what the man's got to say myself. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. He's a science man, right? And they might have learned something.
Well, maybe that was the fear.
Yeah.
That could be the fear.
Don't bother me with the facts.
Patrick Vallance, off. We don't, with your big scientific ways, coming round here. Don't care about your hunger strike people.
Didn't help us in the pandemic, did he?
No. Good old Pat. One of the three amigos, wasn't he?
Three amoebas, I thought you said.
I think, possibly. I felt quite sorry for the two medical people, because if ever two people looked as if they didn't want to be somewhere on a daily basis, it was standing next to Boris Johnson in Downing Street.
Yeah, I understand that as well. Still, he's history, right? Well, nearly. He's still in Downing Street. But,
yeah, indeed. Here's a question from Gina, who says, what are the chances of getting a picture with you at WOMAD this year, Dale? I think that's a stalker alert.
Well, I was going to say pretty good, actually. We'll be on the stage, won't we, on Saturday, round about, is it midday? Something like that? I think
so, yeah. We're doing the podcast live. Jon Snow, of course, on with us as well. So this is going to be a great episode.
Yeah, I think it will. even though it's three old white blokes. We'll pass for Tories, right? We'll call it an impromptu Tory conference.
That's right. Yeah. As many people that turned up at the climate change meeting. We will watch with it. So yes, I'm sure Gina can. Joking aside, Gina will be able to get a photograph, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. I'll be there.
Michael on Facebook, when will we get to see the hovercraft or the camper van?
Well, soon, I reckon. I've got a little video sent to me yesterday by the guys that are putting the finishing touches to it, and I was going to share that on social. I'll get around to that soon, hopefully. And we're going to set up a kind of a launch test drive session for the next couple of weeks. So, I mean, it's imminent now. I know I've been saying that for a while.
but it's not. But I think the point is, the reason why it's good to raise that as well, and thank you to Michael who sent the question, and it's good just to remind everybody that sometimes because we don't talk about something every week, it doesn't mean it's been shelved.
That's true. Yeah. And it took just a little bit longer, but when you're starting from scratch making something, and of course it's got to be out over the water, this thing. So it's got to be, final touches are all about waterproofing and making it robust. But it's looking good.
So these will replace your executive helicopter that you fly around the Cotswolds.
That's exactly right. I'm just getting ready for the flood, right? When the flood comes.
Who started the urban myth about your helicopter?
I have no idea.
Was it Will?
I don't think so. I think it predates Will, actually.
Does it?
Yeah.
Well,
not on this planet, but at Ecotricity.
Yeah, I keep getting a text from a guy that thinks I live in a castle for some reason.
Oh.
Like as in a massive castle, not once a bit of a castle, as in like Dover Castle. It's just made it up. So
yeah, people just make stuff up.
yes, it's Windsor Castle that I live. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
U.S. climate change emissions cause £2 trillion worth of damage on other countries. Now, this is an interesting angle, isn't it? Because it's all very well for detractors and people who aren't happy with climate stuff to go, we don't care about this stuff. We're not bothered. We don't want this. But actually, this is a global thing. You can't function in isolation when you're talking about this. And there will be lots of examples, I would imagine, where what one country does actually has a devastating effect on another, whether that's in goods that are travel, whether it's in animal products, whatever it happens to be. And the United States seem to be top of the league on that.
Yeah, but that's because they're such big consumers of everything, right?
True.
Per capita, they're the world's, biggest consumers of everything. And along with that comes a big carbon footprint and a big environment impact. I mean, that's the way it is. You remind me of the kind of meat debate that, pops up every now and then, in the old expression, one man's meat is another man's poison. Yeah. Saying the other day that actually I think one man's meat is every man's poison, because if you choose to eat meat, then you do drive the climate crisis, the wildlife crisis, and the pollution of water and all that kind of stuff. And that affects everybody. So your diet choice actually poisons everybody, not just yourself.
Here's a question from Alice, who says, Dale, I saw the Ofcom news. Is my money safe with you? What the hell's the Ofcom news?
Oh, I think it's Ofgem, actually.
Yes, I'm sure it should be Ofgem. Unless you've been swearing on the radio, which is possible.
It's happened before. Yeah. So they put out a statement yesterday. It was pretty poor, really. It was a bit of a show from Ofgem to say, look, we're here. We're busy being an effective regulator just 6 months after letting 30 energy companies go bust. And I think it was a bit of kind of showmanship to say, look, we're telling these energy companies off. 6 of them, I think one of them was us, Ecotricity, saying that we have to take urgent action around direct debits. And they said something vague like there are mild to serious kind of issues with direct debits or something. And it has made a few people think, oh, is it like a banking security issue or something like that? It's not that at all. In our case, it's different for everybody. But in our case, our new billing system doesn't yet take into account credit balances when it calculates DD, a new DD level. So we have to do that manually. But we've got a fix for that goes live in 6 weeks. Been working on it since January. We told Ofgem that. They didn't care, didn't take it into account. They're just gonna, attacked 6 energy companies for pretty minor things. A bit of scaremongering, really, actually.
Well, it's someone's job over there at Ofgem to write a press release every day. Doesn't really matter what's in it, just write one. So I think every now and again they think, well, we've got to, we are here, we're meant to do something. So let's sound a bit serious and send one out.
Yeah, I mean, they've been asleep at the wheel. I think this is them, just making a show of being very much at the wheel and in control and, staying on top of the naughty energy companies.
Sure. What about this? French authorities seeing that link between colon cancer and sausage.
This is, what are they called? These cured meats, aren't they? You know, the ones with nitrites and nitrates in it.
Charcuterie or something. Charcuterie.
Charcuterie, yeah. And like the World Health Organization stuck them on a list of carcinogens alongside tobacco, I don't know, 10 years ago, something like that. So, and the French acknowledged that. They were like, this is not new, but we've just confirmed it ourselves. I guess they're French, they have to do it themselves. And now it's real in France, and they're going to do something about it. And I think that's actually the exciting and more important part of this story. French government are saying that they will do something about it. You know, they're going to educate people that this stuff is bad for them, it's killing them, which is exactly what our government needs to be doing, because the science around animal products is clear, not just about the climate, but the effect on human health. And our government refuses to give people the true, honest advice about that. And they're being taken to court for it at the moment by another group of loony left-wing activists, as the Tories probably see them.
It's interesting, though, isn't it, that it doesn't take much to work out when you look at sort of links between disease and food and the like. And, you know, I know there are degrees of, and, you know, I'm sure if you're a vegan as you are, Dale, then it doesn't matter which part you eat, it ain't right, it's not good, etc. But, you know, if you are eating something that contains a cow's anus, then it should really come as no surprise that it might make you feel a bit iffy. Or just chuck it. There's a snout in my sausage. Yes, that's meant to be there. That's allowed. So, yeah. Of course, there's going to be, and there has to be a knock-on effect.
Lips, ears, and bums. That's what they put into pies and sausages. Yeah. By law, that's allowed. It's incredible. People don't know that. But look, we talked last week, didn't we, about the rise of bacterial infection in chicken and pork. An incredible rise. And in the case of pork, it was resistant to the last antibiotic used to save human lives, which is kind of, shocking. We broke a story today from last week. There was a mystery pig illness in Norfolk. So the farmer killed some pigs, tested them, found it wasn't swine fever or something else. So it's just like a mystery new disease in his pigs. And then he decided to kill the whole herd because they were suddenly worthless. And we've got drone footage of these guys walking around with a shotgun, shotgunning pigs to death, which is like the most hideous thing you can imagine.
Well, because his pigs were worthless. I
think that's what it was. I mean, arguably, morally, they were already worthless to him. He obviously didn't give a shit about them. But, there are scenes, these pigs just weren't killed effectively. They're flapping on the floor in pools of blood. Other pigs are going up to them and kind of nudging them to see what's wrong with them while he's reloading his shotgun to shoot another one. It's the most hideous event. Anyway, we break that story today. That's linked to pigs, which is linked to bacteria, which is linked to health, human health. It's not just...
Of course. Is that illegal as well?
We think so.
I was about to say, I mean, we don't like slaughterhouses. I get that. But there are rules and regulations. And just blasting away a group of pigs in a field doesn't sound like anything that's been given the green light legally, but we'll watch with interest.
Can I share this? I just want to share this, right? Because the veterinary advice around killing a pig is that they're very difficult to kill. And one of the tried and trusted ways to do this is stick a screwdriver through their head and stir their brain.
Oh, blimey.
I kid you not.
Who came up with that?
Yes, a good question.
Wow.
That's awful. What I want to know is Phillips or Flathead, right?
Yeah. That's the one. There's the question. A group of councillors went for a meaty lunch in a boycott against a vegan meal on the council menu. This was Oxfordshire County Council's cabinet, who voted to serve entirely plant-based meals at full council meetings and all civic events. Currently, there are 7 meetings in the full council year, meeting for all 63 councillors. But some of them got pissed off about this and decided to go for a wimpy, it seems. Or somewhere similar.
Yeah.
It's quite funny how somebody has to make the stance. We're deliberately going to eat lots of meat.
I don't know what to say. It's a bit boneheaded, isn't it? I mean, but part of me thinks, well, look, guys, just eat as much as you possibly can and die quick.
Yeah.
But that won't happen like that because, it takes a long time actually to poison yourself. And in the meantime, you're poisoning the planet, and back to one man's meat is every man's poison.
Indeed. Even the bender in the bun. Do you remember that at Wimpy?
I do. I worked there once.
Stop it.
Yeah, as a kid, I worked in Wimpy in Great Yarmouth.
You worked in the Wimpy? So you're completely au fait with the bender.
I lasted about a day.
I was going to say, I can see why that wasn't a long-term career thing. Final one from Tom on Facebook. Few people have mentioned this naturally. What are your thoughts on the season ahead for Forest Green Rovers? Promotion or consolidation?
Yeah, I mean, it's not promotion, right? I don't see it, but I wouldn't rule out a playoff spot. That might be possible. I would be very happy with consolidation. That's kind of like how it seems to work, how it should work. I think it's obviously a bigger, much better league than we've been in. So we've got a bunch of new players joining us, and consolidation would be a good outcome. I think our manager will be a little bit more ambitious than that. Our coach, I should say, and so will the fans. But I can't see promotion this year. I would imagine. I think that's a lot to expect.
Aren't you meant to say no? Yeah, we're going for it.
We will go for it, and this is just a question of what we find when we jump into the league and start playing some of these really big clubs. Like our first home game is Ipswich, right? I mean,
saw that.
It's a huge club. So I'm just really looking forward to it. I think we're going to have some great fun.
It's going to be superb.
The message just gets bigger and better. There's a FIFA film coming out in August, I think it is, late August, a little documentary about Forest Green Rovers.
Of course, I forgot they've been doing that.
Yeah.
That was a year or more ago, wasn't it, they were doing that? So.
Well, they started before the Christmas last, and then they got hit with COVID. It kind of wiped out 3 film crews. Not literally, they didn't die, but it's
goodness for that.
It set them
They're
back
all
completely.
alive. Brilliant.
So then they reconstituted with one film crew with a slightly less ambitious agenda, which is like a 1 hour or 1.5 hour kind of I don't know what you'd call it, like a teaser type thing.
Yep. Good work, Dale. That's it for this episode. We will speak very soon, and we have the WOMAD special on the way as well, of course.
A couple of Saturdays away,
Couple of Saturdays away. Looking forward to that. Speak to you soon, Dale.
Yeah, cheers in. See you later.
Take care. Don't forget, of course, to follow this podcast from your podcast provider so that you get each new episode automatically. And follow Dale on social media, twitter.com/DaleVince, facebook.com/DaleVince.
Zero carbon
east of